So Miss Ireti, she sent the rain.
Yes, I
To be
did.
honest, she
Thank
I
you
did.
very
did.
much.
Yeah, she did. And Tunde is joining us this morning at Big Coast. Good morning.
Morning,
Welcome.
Morning, Tunde.
Welcome, every one of you. Thank you for joining us. Please send in your messages through WhatsApp to 0809-444-0981. We're also on Twitter.
On Twitter, we're at Smooth981FM, and you can use the hashtag FreshlyPress981 so that we can easily track your messages. But please make sure you're following us as well.
And subscribe to our YouTube channel, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Our first story comes to you, Waji. From The Guardian, is just a still reaction, or well, maybe we're getting to the tail end of the judgment or the action that we expected, and we've been calling the government to be on top of the game in making sure that the inaction of the police, I would say it that way, for the Sunday's misfortune is addressed finally. Now, from The Guardian, police dismiss officer over Kolade Johnson's killing. And in this report, we find that only one of them was found guilty and was dismissed, and then will face the legal action. But take us through the story, Waji.
All right, thank you very much. And once again, a very unfortunate incident that we have to actually discuss and analyze, given that the individual was killed just trying to watch a football match. And the story pretty much talks about how the police force has, the Lagos State Police Command has made the necessary moves to dismiss this individual pending the trial and everything else, and that we hope that there will be criminal prosecution and whatnot. But I think for me, the larger conversation is something I've said multiple times whenever covering anything police, is what are we doing about the professionalization of the police force?
Yeah.
Because these issues will continue if you do not fix your recruiting, onboarding, and training processes of these individuals. And more importantly, your psychological assessments of these individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you have to have a certain temperament if you're going to be an enforcer of the law. It's just the way that the thing works. It's
Yes.
how it's set up.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to have a particular perspective. You have to have a particular way that you see the world, you see yourself, you see the community. Because you first and foremost have to look at the community as that with which you are protecting, and then upholding the laws of the legislature which has passed. So if you, however, see the community as either a threat to you, or you see the community as a way that you can extort money from them, then you're going to continue to have this particular issue.
Sure.
And if you do not approach crime from a procedural point of view, you will continue to act in a sporadic manner where people are killed the way that they're killed. So I'm happy that the police force have dismissed these individuals to send a message, and I'm really, really hoping further that you will have a situation where there will be criminal prosecutions and these people will go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there needs to be a complete revamp of how police are brought on to the police force, so that way we can avoid these issues going down the road.
What happened with the other guy though? Because there were two of them. Why was what was it?
That the evidence that was presented didn't see that he was culpable.
Mm-hmm.
So the only person that would be held to
Is the person that actually shot.
Yes.
account.
That's
or
to the
person that shot.
first
Right.
defaulter.
Okay.
So that they didn't have, he didn't.
He
find
was
him
just
culpable.
present.
Yes, he was
Yes.
just present.
All right, let's link that with the next story. They're still on the same paper, the Guardian newspaper. Nigerians call for reforms to curb extrajudicial killings by police officers. So apparently, it seems that social media is recognized more on a daily basis. We see reactions from leaders of the federal government, from the president down to the Senate president to every other parastatal. But Nigerians have been very vocal in calling for an action or deliberate actions by the government. Now, the death of Kolade Johnson brought back intense push for police reforms that have been embodied by the hashtag #EndSARS. And the Senate president yesterday said that 2 bills on police reforms will be passed before the end of his tenure, and we're holding him on to that statement. But Tunde, your thoughts regarding this story?
I mean, like you said, it's very related to the first one. The first thing that jumps at me, though, and this has to do with our thinking and mindset, is that these guys are supposedly part of our anti-cultism, the
Unit.
anti-cultism operators. And I wonder why, when we give things a certain type of focus, then you sort of dictate and prime how people behave.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yes.
If criminal behavior is criminal behavior,
Exactly.
treat it as such. When you start to give it labels like this, people start to think that they're cowboys in the West.
Yeah, so they are
Right.
special.
That they're special. And they
Thank you,
behave,
Tunde.
Above the law, which is essentially what these guys have done. Now, when I think about what's required for us to avoid these type of things, it's disheartening. it's almost depressing when I look at where we are and how far we need to get to. Right? There's a thing about what you spoke about training, which speaks to culture and people, but there's a school of thought that, don't focus on culture first. Culture will take care of itself. Focus on infrastructure and processes. Right? Have that in place. People would align. Culture will follow. But we're not doing any of that. We don't have the processes. The police force is not professional enough, right? There's so many things lacking. There's so many gaps. Then we think about training, think about orientation. You look at, and then the mental states. Why you mentioned that as well?
Yes.
The mental states of the individuals. Even in countries that don't give firearms to all police officers, and even those that do, I'll pick the US and the UK. There is constant psychological evaluation. Because you're allowed to carry a firearm yesterday doesn't mean that you're fit to carry one today. So the way sports people have regular checkpoints as you come and submit your urine sample, just check where you are. Officers have that checkpoint check on, look, are you still fit to carry a firearm? And literally after every session or every period, they go and have a full. They're part of the police force. Someone does psychological evaluations on them. We have none of that.
And if you miss it, you can't carry out your duties.
You can't carry out your duties. You're put on suspension. Then the final thing I look at, let's even address the need for all of our policemen to carry guns. Right. I think it's because we've become so used to, we're so abused by it that it's normal to us. It's normalized. It's not normal. Again, I'll point to the US and the UK. It's typical that every police officer in the US will carry a firearm, but that's a reflection of the society. The government should maintain a monopoly on force, right? If the citizens are allowed to carry firearms, if people are supposed to police them, it only makes sense that you carry firearms. Look at the UK, where not everyone carries firearm. It's not firearms and handguns are not as proliferated. Therefore, the police force, they have special units that carry guns. In Nigeria, please, can you get a gun easily? Firearms,
No.
So why does every policeman? There's an imbalance. When there's an imbalance, you get over concentration of force, and then people misbehave.
And I like that you make the comparison with the US and the UK, because we see, based on that comparison, we understand that in those climes, there's a level of involvement of academics in the evaluation process, and even in the activities generally, not just the medical experts, that you involve educational experts to make sure that there's reorientation.
Which is why I'm saddened when I look at everything required to prevent it and where we are. It's worrying. I begin to wonder when we get here.
It's not just about polls or social media.
Exactly. So we default to what we do best, which is we pray, and then we hope and pray that you're not in the wrong place at the wrong time.
All right, let's take some comments from WhatsApp. Thank you very much, Tunde, for the analysis. MI from Akoka says, good, first step. I hope everything from here on should be textbook prosecution. Just like Big Coops mentioned, the Nigerian police force has their work cut out. This narrative of police is your friend isn't working for some Nigerians. And then Emmanuel says the Nigerian police reform will be a holistic and transparent process, details of which will be publicized to Nigerians. It will need to be properly researched by the judiciary, evaluated by the executive, and debated at the legislature, and an applicable bill passed into law. Any true reform of that and any other public institution cannot be done surreptitiously.
All right. And we go to this next story. Ms. Ireti, I'll come to you for this one from this newspaper. ACF, that's our Arewa Consultative Forum. They've appealed to the federal government to take urgent steps to combat the increasing wave of kidnapping and banditry in Kaduna, Zamfara, Katsina, and Sokoto states. From what I've seen so far, and seen from reports and conversations with people who work in those areas, especially journalists, it seems like this has been happening for quite a while, but the government has given little attention to this. What are your thoughts on this story?
Well, yes, very much so. It's a bit like the way when a particular issue overwhelms a particular area, so everything else gets ignored. So you must remember this is in the north. So therefore, the government has been focused on the whole Boko Haram menace, etc., etc. Yes. And of course, they forget that there's actually a war going on. Albeit we don't feel it in Lagos, but there is a war going on. And where there's war, you do have this, how should I say, this criminal activities, this fringe criminal activities that go on. So it says here, the statement, which was signed by the spokesperson for Arewa Consultative Forum, ACF, said, frequent, and I'm quoting, frequent kidnappings, especially along Kaduna-Abuja Expressway and many villages in Zamfara, Sokoto, Katsina, and Kaduna states, as well as many other parts of the country, are cruel, barbaric, and inhumane. Um, it says the killings of people. The ACF therefore condemns these unwarranted and unbridled kidnappings and killing of people by some unknown gunmen. And they're basically asking the government to just up the ante, so to speak. It says here the establishment of military joint task force and other security operations commanding Zamfara, Sokoto, and other flashpoints states they need to be increased and they need to double the efforts. And of course they do. I've seen actually people when Buhari made a statement regarding Kolade Johnson,
Yes.
was it 2 days ago?
Yes.
It
2
was
days ago
today,
and
yes.
yesterday as
Yes, 2 days ago.
Mhm.
I actually saw people from these parts of the country, Sokoto, Katsina, saying, can you please say something about what's going on in our side as well? Because, people are being killed, they're being kidnapped, etc., and this is going on. And we don't know what the government are doing. But so I think it's good that the ACF has actually brought this into the consciousness, because when we think of the North, we just think Boko Haram, Boko Haram, Boko Haram. We don't realize that the way we had this crazy wave of kidnapping that was going on a couple of years ago in Lagos, they're actually going through theirs as well. So again, it's the same thing. I think the three stories that we cover, it's all to do with security,
Yes.
protective forces that are supposed to be there
And then there'll be the
to
question.
give us a better society.
And then there'll be the question of really, what are the state governments do? What's the state government for each of those locations doing, and how are they carrying out their, actions in
And
curbing
that's-
this menace? Should they employ new methods?
I think
Shouldn't
they
they
need to.
re-strategize?
I mean, one thing that I've always believed in is, with the exception of, and I know the argument of state policing is still out. We haven't agreed on it because we're all rightfully scared because we know how our governors can behave. However, having said that, though, I do think that when the federal force come in, they need to work closely with the local forces. So the governor or, I don't know, commissioner of security, whatever their title is for each state, because they know their state better than people who are coming in
Exactly, for information
from the
gathering.
orga at the
Yeah.
top.
Yes,
So they
yes.
need to work very closely, which then means that by working closely with them, you're then able to go deeper down into the communities and work with community leaders.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, these people that are kidnapping are also from the community.
Right.
They know who they are. They grew up there. They're not new to the terrain. Strangers don't kind of know your nooks and crannies better than you,
Yeah,
right?
You need somebody on the inside.
Yeah. So I think that's what the states and governments should do.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ireti. I'll come back to you today for this story from Thisday newspaper. Nigeria's public debt grows by 12.25%, hits 24.387 trillion naira. This figure was comprised of the debt owed by federal, state, and federal capital territory combined. That's coming from the Director General of the Debt Management Office, Mrs. Patience Oniga. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and it's also comprises or composed of foreign and domestic debt.
Yes.
Yeah. So domestic debt is at where's that thing again? It stands at between 16 to 17 billion, and it accounts for almost 73.3% of it in total. So that's all your treasury bills and other things, instruments that the government is borrowing internally. Okay, so we've been running a huge budget deficit for as far back as I can remember, to be honest. I'm also in GMB's government because the theme from when you came in is that look, we're far behind on where we're supposed to be in for a number of reasons. So we have to borrow, which is true, right? For where we're trying to go, our income just doesn't match, and the way you do that, where you fill that deficit, is to borrow. I mean, the deficit for the current for the budget in question, the 2019 budget stands at 1.649 trillion. So the only way to operate is to borrow. Now, the downside or the unfortunate thing is that in the past years, or I mean, again, as far back as I can remember, we've borrowed to cover mostly recurring income, like salaries and lao. So,
What's lao? Could you please expand on the term lao?
It's lao. No. But the approach now, the approach that's highlighted by the manager of the head of the debt management office, the director general, is that look, we're going to focus a lot more on project related borrowing. right? So that's borrowing for specific projects. Funds are dispersed based on milestones for those projects.
Exactly.
It doesn't take away the possibility for misappropriation or stealing, but it's a more accountable method and means. So that's good. The only other thing to note is that this address was delivered at the Sigma Pensions Business Roundtable. So there's a lot of people talking about borrowing and how we need money to fund the deficits. When it has to do with our pensions and PFA money, and the way all sorts of people, either some people get excited or get worried about that. But look, it's saying what it is. We have to borrow externally and borrow internally. It's grown by this amount. This is how we're borrowing.
At least there are checks and balances. Well,
yeah, there are checks and balances.
Cautious optimism. Thank you.
Thank you, Tunde. Olatunji Saidu on Twitter says, please, what is ACF? That's
Iowa Consultative Forum.
I did say, didn't we?
Yes,
we did say.
Just to clarify, in
Yeah.
case he missed it. Olatunji also says Saki should do a good job on the peace bill. I will also like the federal government to look into Mogalu's idea about peace reform too. And Mogalu's idea was more on the welfare of policemen.
That's
Talking
what
about
I've been
additional-
going for.
Yeah.
So
Remember,
not
I
just
kept saying that.
attacking
Yes.
them and saying that they're
Start
doing
from
this.
the
Yes.
basis of their humanity.
Yes.
You have to value their humanity first
Absolutely.
before you do all this highfalutin stuff at the
Yeah.
top.
Because what's
So
interesting,
better training,
yes.
equipment, welfare
Welfare.
package, more
Make them
staff.
feel worthy.
Yeah.
Because
You have
unfortunately,
to.
if you treat humans like animals, they behave like one.
All right, thank you very much.
Animals even
Saidu.
behave better than that.
We'll go to the next. So, Waji, I'll come to you for this. I think this is your first story for today. Waji, NCC to criminalize sale of sale of pre-registered pre-registered SIM cards, according to the Guardian. So, the Nigerian Communications Commission, from this report, is working with the National Assembly to criminalize mobile phones, SIM card fractions, and this is from the Director, Compliance Monitoring and Enforcement. Yesterday, we took on the story of NCC and how they're trying to stop fraud, the measures they're taking to stem fraud, and today it's about pre-registered SIM. Please take us through the story.
The mere fact that we're still having this conversation is quite worrying, because NCC has been dealing with this for a very, very, very long time, and there's a huge disconnect between NCC and the mobile operators. Because the mobile operators, well, do you know what? Let me take that back now. Actually, not the mobile operators, but the people that they subcontract to carry out, the registration of the SIMs and everything else. There has been, for time, a racket going on where people were charging customers a certain amount of money to register SIM cards, which is actually illegal because it's meant to be free. That's the registration, not the procurement of the SIM card. So what is now happening is that they are now selling pre-registered SIM cards, which is also illegal. And instead of you trying to figure things out, you need to work very closely with the authorities.
Yes.
That in the event that this happens, make it a criminal act. Okay? Because it's the only way you're going to actually deter people from doing these kind of things. You can put all the sanctions in place, whatever it can be, but if people do not feel that there are repercussions towards their actions, then they feel that they have some level of impunity to act however they want to act. So can we work very closely with whatever authorities may fall in line with this particular aspect? I'm not sure if it's EFCC or whoever need to step in to actually make this like a proper process, because it's been going on for too long. It's
For many
going on
years.
for 8 years. I mean, as far back as 2011. So something's clearly not wrong in the way in which they attack how this needs to be addressed. So you need to step up the ante a little bit. Maybe go work with some, some law enforcement individuals, throw a few people in jail who actually do these kind of things, and discourage and deter a bunch of individuals, because this is terrible. This is how kidnapping is done. This is how armed is operated. Because when people use pre-registered SIMs that you can't actually track the authenticity or the ownership of that particular line, then it just creates all kind of problems. MTN had the situation a few years ago where they were caught up in this racket. So between NCC, the mobile operators, and the subcontractors who actually now operate on their behalf through the trade networks, they need to work out a system where people are thrown in jail for these kind of issues.
Thank you very much indeed, Mwaji.
So initially when I read it, I looked at pre-registered. I didn't look at it as people necessarily going to go and putting, I don't want to say dot data, but putting in data here that are not really intended for the person who's going to use the SIM. The question I have is, shouldn't we have a category of SIM for people who come in, right? So travelers, business travelers, whatever.
Yes.
Someone comes in, someone needs a SIM.
A
He's in
temporary
for a
SIM
week,
that's probably
right?
limited.
Do you know how? Yeah, but you know how. Look, so because I've traveled quite, for work, many different places, and Nigeria is the only place where at least as I've been to, that it's very difficult to get the same as a visitor.
Mm.
You need your
It's a
passport,
long
you have to go for half a
process.
day, full day. It's ridiculous. If you're there on a 2-day business trip, it doesn't really
So
doesn't.
today, would
You know.
the solution not be better to simplify the process instead of saying that they should
So,
register?
so
Because
you could simplify the process, or you
Yeah.
could just have a category of SIMs that are only active for a period of time, and certain things that they
And
can't
you
do,
deactivate them.
and then you
Absolutely.
deactivate them afterwards.
That's true.
Right? You know, we need to just make things a little easier. When I heard pre-register, that's what my mind went to. But then I
Yeah.
see that it's not. It's
Yeah.
people
all right,
just
okay,
doing
we'll
the
have to go to the
wrong.
next story because of our time. Well, I'm sure we've established the main facts. Thank you very much. The next one, Ms. Ireti, I'll come to you. Budget defense. You can't spend 29 million naira to renovate toilets. Reps tell National Theatre boss. To Dr. Stella Oyedepo, who is the general manager of National Theatre, who went to defend the budget at the House of Reps.
Yes. So this is very misleading because actually, Stella Oyedepo actually just started.
Yes.
So,
So it wasn't
but
her,
it wasn't her. But did you know? And for me, one that's a culture vulture, as they call us. This is a really interesting story because there are 500 toilets apparently
Yeah.
at the National Theatre. Did you know that?
No.
You
Oh, wow.
didn't. Well, now you know.
Why is there so much stuff around?
Why are there so
around
many
on the ground? Yeah.
What do you mean?
Don't worry.
I know what you mean, but I was trying to make you
Open
say it on a
defecation,
Friday. But what we don't know is, I don't know whether they meant 500 WCs, which is very different to 500 bathrooms.
They're
You know,
also
in
toilets,
Nigeria,
the
which
general
is,
term.
yes, exactly, might be 500 WCs. But even if they're made of, gold
So it's
plated.
58,000 naira per toilet.
Well, if
29
that's what I'm saying,
million naira.
even if they're made of gold plated, whatever. I mean, I thought 29 million is a heck of a lot. But she couldn't answer the question. And they did say, it's interesting when you look at these Senate committees when they speak to representatives and stuff, those who they've handed money out to. I wish they would answer to us like that, don't you? I wish we could call them to
People's
a sort of people's parliament,
Well, if
town
they go
hall
to their
where we can question
constitutions,
them.
If they go to their
Constituencies.
constituencies, yes,
Yeah.
thank you, I said constitution, constituencies, and actually have town hall meetings. with
Yes,
their
they would be
constituencies,
questioned
they
because
will be questioned.
I love the one where, sorry, digressing very quickly, I still watched it again yesterday. I thought it was brilliant. Alan, so much. I thought the man spoke so well. And it gave you insight into a lot of what had been going on,
Yeah.
which actually handicapped progress in this country. So anyway, going back to this story, so it's not her. And what she's basically saying is, look, I can't explain how that happened. I just took over the job. And they did say, yes, okay, you know what, you can't, you're very new. Go away and come back with all your papers, as they say, receipts in social media language. Come back with the receipts. Let's know how you spent 29 million. It does seem like a heck of a lot. Having said that, though, we do need to invest into the National Theatre. It's so important. I was there last month, right? Yes, to watch Hayward in Pigeon, and it's nice to see. I mean, I've been there a couple of since, but it's nice to see that it's been reused again, but it still needs a lot of work.
Did you visit the toilet?
No.
All right.
But there are lots of relics. No, we don't.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't check on the 29 million investment.
Yes. All right,
Yes,
Lagos.
but
If you have been to the National
let's
Theatre
know what the
recently,
toilet.
let's know what.
Does
let's
it
see
flush
which
itself?
one. Yeah.
Is it one of those that you get in Dubai that
Oh,
before you
guys.
sit down?
58,000
So those
is not a
motion
lot of money.
censoring ones.
Yeah, motion.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yes.
Thank you very much. Let's go to our next story. Tunde, since you're talking about motion toilets, let's come to you for teaching. So the federal government reviews NCE, that's the National Council on Education Curriculum, includes professional course for teachers. This is from the Punch newspaper. Please take us through very quickly.
Okay, so it now they're deliberately putting something in the curriculum to see that or something that covers professional conduct on behalf of the teachers, and it's a good idea. I mean, especially if it hasn't been there. But I'd like to say, or I'd like to posit that it's not something you do one-off. It's not a vaccination. It's not a jab. And then suddenly these people are professional, right? It should be something that is.
Tunde's on a roll today. It's not a jab.
Such that it happens. It should. It's ongoing.
Progress.
Bottom line,
Yeah.
it should be an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And as the world changes, as things adapt. I mean, remember at one point in time, corporal punishment was the order of the day. Teachers could, physically spank students, to conform. I know we do that in a bunch of public schools today, but I mean, today is not best practice. It's not common practice, even in public schools. So there's an adjustment that's required, a reframing of the mind. Things that were acceptable before are not acceptable now. So it's not static.
So refresh the training.
You're right.
Refresh the course.
It's the same thing that happens all over the world. All teachers all over the world, constantly.
Keep them professional throughout. But I mean, that's there's a lot of problem in that whole space. Teachers, we don't have enough qualified teachers, first of all. Do you understand? And in schools, but that's a whole nother story.
That's another conversation. Thank you very much.
Tony on WhatsApp says, problem is the fact that the police officers think they can get away with anything. How about the Okada rider that was killed at Surulere last month? Still a conversation around the police brutality. This one here is from Lade. Lade says, reacting to the SIM card story, Italy. It does not matter if you're visiting Italy for 2 minutes. You must present a passport or other similar official document before you can obtain a SIM card. Ditto for Senegal, the Netherlands, and Qatar.
So
I'm sure there are more.
That's the point I was trying to make. I think Tunde's point was, how do we simplify the process?
Yes.
That's the
For
major issue.
visitors.
But regardless of the simplification of the process and what happens with the SIM cards afterward, you still have to present some identification to get a SIM card.
Exactly.
There needs to be a name or something attached to that SIM card.
I shouldn't have to go to an office somewhere say for half a day.
No,
Yes, I have presented my passport in all these places to get it.
Exactly.
But I'm presenting the guy I'm buying it from, and I'm done in 5 minutes or less.
Even in Cape Town, I tried to present an e-copy of my international passport. They said,
No,
no,
they won't
bring the
accept
physical
it.
copy. We'll have to
And
see
I'm
it.
sure you didn't have to do it biometric. You didn't have to do it.
Yeah,
You have
just-
to do everything and give your mother's
Grandmother's death
But we can
certificate.
argue that, but we still need to make sure that it's curved. That's the point.
True.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to our next story. We have 2 more stories before we call it a morning. Nigeria loses 400 billion naira on medical tourism annually, says President Buhari. And this is in the Vanguard. Mr. Ireti, please, can you take us through that story?
Well, yeah, so let's. Oh, sorry. It would help if I spoke into the mic. Yeah, so this is interesting. And I think the minute you see it, you think, okay, should the kettle be calling the pot black?
I was gonna say,
as
it's a bit
in,
rich.
seriously,
It's a bit rich.
we agree that, and you, sir, Mr. President, also agreed with us in 2015, 2014, that, you know what, shouldn't remain a norm in our country.
Let's not shoot the messenger. Let's focus on the message.
No, but don't
Messenger and the
be
message.
calm.
The messenger and the messenger.
Exactly, be calm. Watch where I'm going. Just watch where I'm going. We agreed. You told us. You agreed with us. We all agreed. Now, we also know that you couldn't fix it in those 4 years. And unfortunately for you, you fell ill. You had to go abroad, right? We would all do that. If our loved one fell ill, that when we could afford it, we'll throw, we'll take them abroad. However, what I don't buy is that in the last 4 years, there should have been continuous investment. If it was, especially as you had to be flown out of the country, it should have continued to invest. What you go on top? You're blowing. What is combusting next to me?
He was away for 9 months.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Exactly. Because he was away for 9 months is why he should have said, you know what? This is a shame on me and it's a shame on my country. Yeah. Please invest and make sure this doesn't happen again. Anyway, let me go on. So he's basically saying to his people, I want you to go and learn the frameworks of how it's done in other countries, Asia, Europe, and Americas in funding universal healthcare delivery and how lessons can be learned that will benefit the country. Sir, you should have done that, started that in 2015. I mean, I'm just like, what Uncle, come on, Mr. Buhari, Alaji.
So he has 4 more years.
But this is the thing. Research is what you would do in this 4 years. So you should have done the research, which should be in implementation now. Is my point.
I should argue before you run.
Yes.
That you should know what you want to do beforehand. Yeah, you might come up with new things, but you should have plans and ideas.
Thank you very much, Tunde. Thank you.
Dami says medical tourism and Buhari. And then another one. Femi, people are just reacting.
They're just all statements.
And Shell says President Buhari is our biggest medical tourist.
Well, you could argue that he's not so.
Exactly.
He wasn't a tourist. It's not medically tourist. He had to go, and it was a head of state.
Yes.
It's an emergency. It's a head of state demanding a treatment. Yeah.
All right.
I would like to argue with that, but because of our time,
yeah, because
we
of
will
our
not
time,
be able to
because
argue. But
I think,
unfortunately, Nwaji,
yeah.
I cannot take this very
Aw.
interesting story. But just
Sorry.
for information, motorist nabbed for driving off it last
Ah.
night.
Hilarious story. Go on,
just
lad.
one
Go on,
statement,
go on.
Because we cannot go without talking about just one.
Don't get on the bonnet.
Fantastic. It's a feel-good Friday in Lagos. Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to our analyst at CCOG in Lagos and the corporate MC at Big Coast. This is Smooth 98.1.
Because you're liable to
Don't
get driven
get,
off.
did you see it? Have you seen the video?
No, actually,
Oh my God, it came out on Monday. She was on
was
the
like
bonnet with a big ass
Furious.
and like, Emmy, oh, Emmy.
Are you kidding me?
I said, I died laughing. It's still on YouTube. I died laughing. So she's screaming. The guy that's videoing is on the side and he's going, this is somebody that's claiming
was shouting, "Help!"
He's going with LASTMA. That's LASTMA. And then the LASTMA guy stops at the top. I mean, the driver stops. And they start beating him up. I'm like, but why are you beating him
Why
up?
beating him up?
She should
She's
never
endangered
be on his
alive.
bonnet.
What's she on the bonnet for?
I said with her yash in the air. I laughed.
I've seen that thing
I didn't know it was gonna make. I would have saved it if I'd known it was gonna make the paper.
where the guy jumped in the. It was on Kingsway Road.
Yeah.
Last man jumped in the guy's car. The guy said, "Get out of my car." Last man side guy said, the guy floored it. Fortunately, there was no traffic. You know Kingsway Road, direct
can
to
go
third main
straight
line,
up.
shotgun.
Straight up.
And this guy was bolting at like 130, dipping in and out.
Whoa.
Last man guy was just begging me. He said, "No, you want to get in my car, right? Yeah, let's go."
A number of people have
He
done
said,
it.
"I'm taking you to a, I'm
Is it
taking you
even
to a
legal for
ritual."
them to get into
Lock the car.
Lock the car straight, everyone.
Round up the glass.
And he was bolting it.
Without invitation. Without
Invitation.
Yeah, what
It's an
I did was
invasion
I
on their
picked up the
privacy.
phone when they got in my car because my friend had told me, so I picked up the phone and I said, and I just called, I said, Alaji, Benny sir. So I have one.
Oh my
I'm ringing.
Lord.
As in,
Oh my
Babalawo.
I've seen.